Hi folks, Doc here. I want to show you an idea that I'm examining. I've already pitched it on the Maine Mud Mowers Facebook page, and I'm going to throw it out here on YouTube just to see what you all think. This is in relation to a potential power upgrade for MULE. There we have MULE sans hood, just to give you a look at the engine. Once again, for those that are unaware or have forgotten, it's a 15 horse overhead valve Briggs, single cylinder. And she's developed a bit of an issue. She's got an oil leak. It's been going on for some time. It's not a huge leak. It's not pouring oil out, but I do have to keep an eye on the level. But as you can see, the frame's kind of damp. Let's see if I can just kind of sneak over the muffler there, over the exhaust. You can see the oil there. You can see it on the other side. It's kind of wet. Now, I try and zoom in here. I got a little bit of shadow going on. It's a bit cloudy. But if you look right behind the oil fill there, see this black thing sticking out here. See that little thing there? Just touch it with my fingernail. And right here, that's the sump gasket. It's just been getting chewed up and spitting out. And now, time to go anyways. So basically I've got to pull the engine out of this to make a gasket replacement happen. And that's not a big deal. I've got my own gasket material. I make my own gaskets all the time. I haven't done this one. That's the factory original gasket. But making my own gasket is not a big deal. Can do. But I keep thinking, you know, if the engine's got to come out anyways, why not consider an upgrade? Now, I've got this 94 Craftsman kicking around, and she's got some problems. The most notable problem is this front axle. You can see this tire is just bouldered and all hell. And I'm just going to come in straight over top of the kingpin and kind of zoom down. Let me actually clear the hood out of the way. You can see that the axle is just tweaked. I'm straight over top of it right now. That should be straight up and down, and it's not. It's bent to rat crap, and I'll just give you a little zoom on both sides. The other side of the tractor looks pretty much the same. The old fella that owned this, I don't know if he was sleep mowing or what, but he must have smacked into something right hard and probably multiple times to bend the axle like that. Anyways, the steering on this thing is just trashed. There's a ton of play in it. Front wheels, you know, aren't even moving with this much movement in the steering wheel, and that's just completely unacceptable. So basically the whole steering system and front end on this thing is trashed. But it does have this wonderful Kohler Magnum 18 horse opposed in it. And the Magnum is it's a wonderful engine. It's actually a lot better built than the Briggs Oppies. The Briggs opposed twin is basically constructed of a cast block, including the cylinders, cast out of aluminum, with iron cylinder sleeves. And then the heads, being aluminum, are bolted on top of that. This particular line of engines, the Kohler Magnum opposed, actually has a cast block, but the jugs are bolt-on. And not only are the individual cylinders bolted on, much like an old Volkswagen Boxer engine, the cylinders themselves are iron. They're all iron. It's not an aluminum cylinder with an iron sleeve. It's an iron cylinder. This engine in particular also happens to have full pressure lubrication. There's the spin-on filter there. It features a 15 amp charging system, regulated. There's the regulator rectifier right there. And if I can come around to this side, you can see that unlike the Briggs Oppies, yeah, you can just barely make it out with the shadow, I apologize. There's the fuel pump. And it's actually a mechanical fuel pump, not an electric pump and not a diaphragm pump. The Briggs engines have a diaphragm pump driven by crankcase pulses, mounted right on the front of the carburetor. These engines, however, have this mechanical pump. It is not mounted to the carburetor. There's the carburetor right there. I'll give you better details later in another video, I'm sure. But instead of being driven by crankcase pulses, it's driven by an eccentric lobe on the camshaft, very much like the fuel pumps of days gone by in the automotive world. Before they had in-tank electric fuel pumps, they had mechanical fuel pumps, and they were driven off a lobe on the camshaft. So that's quite the interesting system they got there. Anyways, I've been looking at this engine to repower MULE. Wasn't planning on doing much with the tractor anyways. It's got a spicer rear end and Yeah, I'm kind of a peerless guy, even though I tend to kill them. So I had a few running issues to sort out with this engine. Some carburation and fuel issues. That's why I've got that Hillbilly test tank scabbed on there. I was gravity feeding a tank of brand new fuel into the carburetor, thus eliminating the old fuel in the tank at the back of the tractor. And she was running a little lean, especially on one cylinder, and it was kind of pissing me off and driving me crazy. So I eliminated the entire existing fuel system except for the carburetor itself. So I gravity fed fresh fuel into the carburetor, did a carb job on her, swapped out the spark plugs, and she's running pretty good right now. I got one or two little minor tweaks to do to it, but I've decided that this engine is indeed healthy enough to put in MULE. See if I can get her to light left-handed here. There we go. Now it's a little rattly, and most of that is the tractor. There's a tick coming from the muffler. I can't reuse the muffler in MULE anyways, it just simply won't fit. But it does run rather nicely. I've had it out for a couple of spins since doing the carb work and doing the other work on it. And yeah, she's good to go. I'm just going to shut this down. I also had to pull the starter out of it because the Bendix gear was all gummed up. So you turn the key and the starter would spin, but it wouldn't engage the flywheel. And that's just that was just crap in the Bendix. I tore it apart, hit it with some carb cleaner, cleaned it all up, put it back together. Beautiful. Starter engages every time. So back we are to the MULE here. And I'm really leaning towards putting that engine in this tractor. Now, aside from that oil leak, there's nothing wrong with the 15 horse overhead valve that's in here now. It's been running like a champ, fault-free. I had to do a valve lash adjustment on it. When was that? I think it was early this spring. First time I've had to do it since I got it. Other than that, this engine has been running like a champion. I can't complain about that. The only standing issue with it is the oil leak. However, it's not like I'm going to throw this engine out. I might just put it in a machine for my son. I might even plop it into that machine and just let my son do a little off-roading with it, or whatever the case may be. Kind of a spare parts relegation machine thing, whatever. Anyways, I am going to have some fitment issues with it. I did some preliminary measurements, and it looks like I'm going to have some interference with this plate here that the battery used to sit on and the fuel tank currently sits on. If I got to play around with the tank to make that happen, that's fine. If I have to cut that plate back a little bit, that's fine too. My bigger issue is fitting it under the hood. This hood is a little bit narrower than the hood on that there Craftsman. Once again, this is the same hood that they put on the Ford LTs of the same series. This originally was a Lawn Boy LT12. It's been through a lot. Anyway, so that's the plan. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, yay or nay. Yes, I realize my fuel economy is going to go down the toilet if I swap in that Oppie. I'm not at all concerned about fuel economy. This is a utility machine. This is not my daily driver, so I really don't care if I go from 20 miles a gallon to 15, if you know what I mean. Actually, well, since I've got you here, I'm just going to show you the shifter that I've got now. I did a quick little shifter mod the other day. It was starting to drive me crazy. I had to adjust my linkages again. I wasn't getting enough leverage on it. With the knob originally here, when I was up in 6th gear, the knob was way up here tight into the console, and it just made it really awkward to lean over and shift and yada yada yada. So I just grabbed a piece of tubing that I had with a bend in it. There's kind of a funny story behind that, but I just grabbed a piece of tubing that I had a bend in it, and just welded that on there, and then welded a bolt on it so that I could bolt the handle, the knob back on. And away we go. Interesting story behind that little piece of tubing there. That piece of tubing used to be straight, and it's not like I put it in a bender and bent it. I got it bent. A buddy of mine had a little mishap on his snowmobile a few years ago, and he whacked a hidden stump in the snow, and that was actually a control arm, and it used to be straight. And I helped him change out the control arm for a new replacement, and I kept the bent one for reasons unknown, because I keep stuff, I guess. Anyways, everything comes in handy sooner or later. It's just a matter of time, right? So that's the way the shifter is now. And it works a lot better. I've had this thing out for a couple of spins since changing the shifter, and it's a lot more comfortable, and you can actually feel the gears better. You get more leverage on the mechanism, and there's more of a positive detent in between gears, so it's a lot less hunting and poking and a lot more positive. Okay, I'm in that gear now, real easy. So there you have it, folks. We're strongly considering making the change over to this particular Kohler Magnum 18 opposed twin, and I think we're going to do it. I'm going to gain some weight, but I'm going to gain some torque. So what do you think? Y'all want to see the swap happen? I think I do. Let me know. Thanks for watching.